leads this whole thing, is not here today. He's with the youth. I will definitely trip over that. So super coordinated, but very clumsy. I don't know how those things work together, but they do. I'm constantly like falling over like the dishwasher or like hitting things. And I'm like, oh, walking around corners and like my hip. Christian's like, where'd you get that bruise? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I just walk around hitting things. Yes, my name is Mandy. Let's get back to that. Just so you know, this is how the whole teaching will go. Just, that's a small example. And I'm his wife, and he is just super lucky to be away from you this weekend. And so, yeah. So Christian asked a bunch of people if they would teach, and they all said no. And so I was it. Being on stage is not my favorite thing, but I'm super humbled to be up here. I really am. I know that there are many people who have way more knowledge than I do that could be presenting this material, and so I do stand up here very humbly. I also just wanted to really quickly, only because I've been in this place, Tyler is our youth group leader, along with his Bree, and I just wanted to give Bree a quick shout out. Oh, you shut up. I'm going to do it anyway because I have the microphone and I can. I know what it's like to be on that end, to be the one that stays home and cares for the kids, and I just want to say that we love you, and we are so thankful for all the work that you are putting in and all that you do for our youth. We are just so grateful for you. We just love you so much, and we're so grateful. So grateful. It's so hard to come to church, like, as a single parent, which I can't even imagine, or alone without your spouse. And like, I've done that my entire career of parenting. I actually don't want to call it a career, because I think you can get fired from careers. I don't think I could ever get fired from this job, even if I wanted to. But yeah, I remember coming into church and being like, feeling like I had run a marathon. And I'm just like, get to the finish line, and I'm like, I did it. We're all here. I don't know how. I like to thank some people, and then I'm like drinking water, I'm like, oh, it's been so good. Everyone's like, yeah, you made it to church. Congratulations. You don't get an award. Get your kids to like Sunday school. We need your help. Come on, let's go. It's like, okay. So, you know me so well. It's hard, but I know how you got here. You might have had an army crawl, but you're here. All right. I just wanted to share this because I think it's super hilarious and has nothing to do with my teaching. And so I just wanted to get you guys to know me a little bit. And I couldn't find to give you a picture. I keep looking here because I thought I had a picture on my phone. Actually, I know I have a picture on my phone of this, but me and my phone don't get along 90% of the time. Siri tells me things like randomly. And Christian's like, you're hitting the button. I'm like, I'm nowhere near it. It's like, you asked Siri to do something. I'm like, I did not. But I know somewhere I have a picture. Now, I bought this spring mix of garden salad. Track with me here. And I was looking at the top of it, just like as I opened it. Guys, it said, sealed until torn. What? Like, is that really where we are in America? Like, I looked at that and I thought to myself, is this necessary? Wash before use, sure, but sealed until torn? I was like, who is this direction for? Like, does that not convey like a level of stupidity? Like, I don't know if I should feel grateful that they put it on there or feel like everybody else around me needs that direction, that I should be concerned. So, well, you guys don't think it's very funny, but I thought it was hilarious. Sealed until torn, guys, really? I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny, but whatever. I guess just me and my little friends inside my brain will just love that one. Anyway, well, I am kicking off the series on relationships. I think yes, there it is. Christian made that, the good, the bad, the ugly. Can you guys see that with this here? Yeah, you can. Okay, I won't touch it then because I'm sure I'll mess something up. Biblical advice for relationships. Um, for those of you who know me really well, you're probably thinking, why is Mandy giving this teaching on relationships? She's not the greatest at them. I see, here's the thing. I'm a great communicator. You're never going to not know what I'm thinking. I'm going to tell you what I think 100% of the time. If you want to hear it or you don't want to hear it. That's how I communicate, which is not seen as the most loving, apparently. Go figure. I mean, when I tell Christian before I go to bed, I'm like, dude, it is your turn to do the dishes. I am not waking up to a counter full of dishes. I'm just telling you that right now. So don't forget to do them before you go to bed. And some people are like, oh my gosh, she's so mean. That to me is not mean. That to me, I have just conveyed everything that I want to say. Don't forget, do this for me. It's your turn. Like, I don't understand why that's wrong. But then there's some people who say things like, it would be so helpful to me if before you went to bed, if you felt that you could do the dishes, I really need what's in there tomorrow morning just to make my morning go a little smoother. Really appreciate it. I don't have time for that. Just do your job. Just do your job. And that's not, I stand by this. I do. In my mind and in what I hear is blah, 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 blah. I'm like, just tell me, what do you want me to do? Like, I can't cut through all that business. Just tell me what you want me to do. Do the dishes. Okay, I can do the dishes. I got it. Right? So that's how I communicate. So if you know me well, you're probably thinking, I'm not taking any of her advice today. And I'll just, I don't know, watch something on your phone. I'm sure there's something good on. That's something that's better than this. But this is what you get. This is what you get. Once I was, don't worry, I'm not just going off on a tangent. This all is going somewhere. I know some of you are getting a little nervous. It's going to tie in. Once I was taking our youngest, she's 13 now. So at the time, she was like, 3 or something? And I was taking her into preschool. It was going to be like her first time, like tour thing. We hadn't had any of our other kids in preschool. Like I homeschooled for a while and then scarred my children for a number of years and then decided I needed them out of my sight. So they went to school. No, it was just, that sounds terrible, sure. Again, honest communication. No, I love them dearly. I just wasn't equipped for that, and I realized that, which was great for everybody. But I was taking my daughter Eden in. She wanted 0 parts of preschool. She felt that being with me was the best thing ever, and it was. I'm amazing. But I needed her to go to pre-K because I had to get some work done. I'm just being honest. So I walk into this pre-K. This teacher is like, I don't know how people are teachers. I love you so much because I guess I don't like kids very much or something. I don't know. I mean, this came from somebody who taught Sunday school for 13 years straight, so maybe that's emotional for some of you who I probably taught, but I liked you then. But I don't know. Like, I can't be the person in charge all day, every day like that. Like, I don't have the capacity for that because of my amazing communication. Like, kids start crying, I'd be like, why are you crying? We're not, you know that, you know that movie with Tom Hanks when he's like, are you crying? There's no crying in baseball. That's how I feel when kids start breaking down. I'm like, are you bloody? Is there something actual? Is there a real problem here? No, you're sad? Okay, well, we'll deal with that later. Come on. It's time for snack. So I walk in. She's just like, oh, you must be Eden, because she's late in the last one there. And, if it was Christian, she'd be there, the first one there, because he's all like, let's go to school, And I'm like, oh my gosh, we made it. But we went in, and she's just like, is just kind of like holding onto the door frame a little bit, and I'm like, hey, wow, she's so nice. I come in and I look all around the room and it's like, not overdone, overstimulated, which I love, right? And she's like, so I just want to welcome you. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you. Yeah. Hey, oh, Eden, come on, come on, come on. And, she's like communicating just such like love to Eden in this moment and like, you're welcome here and come on in. It's going to be a great time. And if you get frustrated, there's like this little box over here. If you need a break from your friends and you feel like you're going to be unkind, you can come over to this box and there's this little rake and sand and you can just sit here and sift away and there's little jewels in here you can find. And I'm like, all right, well, where's my chair? I'm like, Eden's still holding onto the door. Don't make me go here. Don't. I'm like, fine, go park the car. I'm in. It's already paid for, so like, I'll stay. We've got sand, a little rake, we've got snack. This is all in 2 hours, people. Like, we get to go outside and play. I'm like, okay, kid. But that's the way we communicate with each other, right? Like, her way of communicating is clearly so different than the way I'm communicating, And so we have to first, I think, get to the place where we acknowledge we all communicate in different ways. Yeah, some ways are the same, and I'm not going to stand up here and be the one to tell you, like, it's okay. We can all communicate in different ways, and it's just okay. Like, that's not me. So what's me is be nice, be kind, speak truth, right? That's pretty much how I operate. So, but there are some people who like need all of the layers, right? And this teacher was willing to do that for every kid who walked through that door. It was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, if Eden still talks about, the teacher named the class, she only had 8 kids in the preschool, and she named them her crazy eights. And because they were insane, but because there were 3, right? Right? I mean, 8 3-year-olds. There we go. That is insane. But she was amazing. And I think that there are people in this room who can resonate with me, and then there are going to be people who can resonate with, her name was Mrs. Blevins, and I think she still teaches there. She's amazing. I just want, as we start off this series, I think that whether you're single or you're married or you've had a lifetime of communication, we're all learning, right? And we're all trying to grow in this area. I know that I'm trying to grow in this area, even though I'm a tell it like it is type girl, I still have to acknowledge the fact that, like Eden, she is much more sensitive than I am, And if I say something to her, she's just no problem calling me out. She's like, Mom, that was actually really hurtful. And I'm like, what? I asked you to clean up your room because I said it was a mess. And she's like, it might look like it's a mess to you, but that's my stuff. I'm like, no, it's actually filthy. So just take the vacuum in it and go clean it. But it's like that. I have to know that when I communicate now to Eden and when I ask her to clean up her room, I have to keep in mind, okay, I do want to be kind to my daughter. I do want to love her. At the same time, I do want to speak truth. Hey, Eden, it's been a while since you've, I don't know what's living in there. Let's be honest. I don't. And I'm worried that you have like pet mice at this point, and I don't know about them. And they're eating things in there. And I can't say all that, obviously, but I have to communicate in love so that she's like, okay, Mom, thanks. And then I can walk away and I'm like, yes, I didn't hurt her feelings. It's a win for me. I mean, these are the wins that we have to have in our everyday conversations, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to start out with I have 3 points. That was one of them, don't worry. You've already made it through one. Well, technically, whatever. You've made it through. You're good. All right, so we are going to start out with a verse. First, I have it. Guys, I always forget that I have this power. Christian! Can you come back now? Oh! I did it. He was so sweet. It was so late last night, and I was like, you can never leave ever again, except for please leave all the time. And he was like, babe, I will drive back in the morning, and I'll wake up, and I'll come teach for you. It's okay. Like, I can do it. And he's like, isn't that so kind and so loving? If that were me, I would never say that. Never in a million years. I'd have been like, you said yes. Suck it up. Do it. We're a little different. He's the nice one. I'm not. So we're going to start out with 1 Corinthians 13. And it says, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. And while this might seem a little bit foreign to us in our day and time, Paul, who is the author of 1 Corinthians, is trying to convey to us that no matter what gift we have, no matter what we excel in, no matter what we think we do well in, we can do all of those things, but if we're not acting it out of love, then we sound like a bunch of noise to everybody else. And I'm sure you've experienced this in your life when someone does something for you and you can tell they really don't want to do it, and you just feel like saying, I don't need your help that badly. You have a really bad attitude. Just like, I'll do it myself. You know, it's because they feel like they're doing it out of obligation. They're not doing it out of love. They sound like noise. And this is obviously not how the Lord wants us to sound. Now, to get this into your minds, I have a picture to share with you. I control it, see? Oh no, somebody else did. Guys, so this kid up here, the drummer, that's my guy, that's my Samuel. How cute is he and his little munchie? He want to just bite, and that's Christian, but he doesn't matter in the picture. But so here, and when as parents get older, they're like, well, when you were 2, you could speak 3 languages. And you're like, yeah, okay, you're old. You don't remember a thing. So, but I do. People are like, when did he start playing drums? I'm like, he was always playing drums. Literally, he's not holding the sticks right, but he's trying. And I'm telling you right now, people would say to me, how do you tolerate that? And it was because I know where he is. If I hear the noise, it means my crazy active child who has literally climbed walls, because that's, what you're supposed to do to walls, right? Try to figure out how to climb them. That was Samuel. And so if I heard noise, he was busy, and I knew everybody was safe. And I'm just telling you, though, but it's noisy. It is so noisy. Drums are noisy. They're amazing, but if you don't play them well, they sound ridiculous. They sound terrible. They sound awful. I spent years listening to terrible drumming. It's true. You are very good now. You're very good, and I love you. But you were terrible for many years. I'm just going to be honest about that. We don't want to sound like that. We don't want to sound like a bunch of noise, right? That's not how we want to communicate love. So we have to figure out, what is love then? All right? Now, I'm just going to call it out, because every time I say that, I just hear of Tina Turner. What's love got to do with it? I just have to say it, because I know there's people out there who are singing it in their head anyway. And so there's so many times when I was making this teaching that I just was like, Tina Turner, you gotta leave my mind. Girl, we can jam later, but not right now. I'm just trying to stay focused on the love. But, so, what does love have to do with it, and what does love look like? What is love? For those of you who have been in the church, for those of you who have grown up and you have, in the Bible and studying his word, this probably to you at this point, it's almost like, if you have certain scriptures where it's almost like you don't even actually hear it anymore. It's just like numb, like it's just flatlined. I don't want this verse to become that, and I think that it does. And I do think that if we memorize this verse, and this is going to be not this section, but it's coming up, we can start applying love because we will actually know what love is. You can't apply love to your life and to your communication to others and in your relationships if you're basing it on emotions, if you're basing it on feelings. That stuff is like, it comes and goes, right? But love is going to, God's love, the way it is put here, and Paul writes it, it says, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, which sounds amazing, right? That sounds incredible. Who can do that? And if I have faith that can move mountains, you can't just read that and not picture a huge mountain being moved. If you have that kind of faith, but you don't have love, I am nothing. Those are extreme examples. But it comes down to this. If you don't have love behind those things, they mean nothing. What you're saying, what you're doing means nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but I do not have love, I gain nothing. Oh, you guys are so nice back there. And so here's where we see what love is. And this is the portion that I'm challenging you guys today. Memorize this part if you haven't yet. Not just the first 2 or 3, like the entire thing. And before you speak, before you start to argue, and trust me, it starts here. Like it starts right with me. I need to do this in my relationships. Love is patient. I mean, I could stop right there. I am not the most patient. Love is kind. It does not envy, unless you have an in-ground pool. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love, that's right. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always, here are things that love always do. It always protects. It always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. See, I think that we can just read this and be like, it's everywhere. Like if you've been in the Christian world for a while, you see this everywhere, right? It's like on people's walls. It's written on, bookmarks, everywhere. But see, the thing is that we don't want to become numb to this, because this is something that to communicate well with others, we have to have love at the forefront, or else we just sound like a bunch of noise. So the first point we have to have is that without love in your speech, you are a resounding gong. There will be miscommunication. Point number 2, we need to assume the best and forgive. There will be miscommunication, right? We live in the fallen world. We're all sinners, so we're going to miscommunicate things. Assume the best. Assume the best of the other person who you've had a miscommunication with. That is not always easy. Christian was sharing a story the other day, and I'm not going to get to the story because it's not relevant to what I'm saying, but I just was like, yeah, but what if that person didn't mean to, and then this happened? We just don't know everything. We don't know. And he was like, Mandy, yes, we do. Sometimes we do know that there's a clear yes and no, and there's no gray area, but sometimes we just have to take the humble posture and say, maybe there's more. I don't know what's going on. Maybe when we were communicating and talking, maybe they were in a hurry. Maybe they had a bad morning. I don't know. I'm going to talk to that person because it just didn't feel quite right. And I'm going to see. Have you ever done that? And when we take time to do that, what usually happens? The grudge that we had or the hurt that we carried, it's usually wiped away. Because we were communicating and thought, that hurt me, but maybe there's more to that. I'm going to tell you what I think is hilarious story, but now that I've told the salad thing, this could all go to pot, so I don't know what's going to happen. But I have this great story about miscommunication. My husband, Christian, and I, this part's not hilarious. Sometimes I don't think before I say things, like 90% of the time. So we lost 2 children to stillbirth. First, we lost our son Malachi, and then a year later, we lost our daughter Hope. And so when I was pregnant, 5 years later with my daughter Eden, I was off the chart high risk. They didn't really know what to do with me, and so I had made it to a certain weeks, and then they were like, okay, we're just going to induce you now because you're healthy, baby's healthy, let's go. I was like, sure, whatever. So I had never had an epidural up until that point. And so vacation, hello. Why did I have 5 natural childbirths? I do not know. I blame my older sister Heather for that one because she's like, go to the birth center. It's so good, like connecting with your baby. I was like, I am texting in labor. This is amazing. So if you're ever wondering, anybody out there, yes, there's a major difference. Take the drugs. So I'm in the hospital. I'm hooked up to every machine imaginable. Okay, now this is obviously, like I said before, she's 15. She's not Ben, obviously. So I'm sitting there, and Christian is a nervous wreck and feeling very overprotective of me. I was like so chill. And you guys who know me know that chill is not a word that you would ever describe me with at all. Tightly wound, high strung, yes. Chill, no. So like I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I don't know if it was the epidural or what, but I was like, everybody, I'm having a baby today. And I'm feeling good. And Christian's like, I'm like, babe, you should really go eat. Because, I don't know how long it's going to take. So he's like, well, I'm not leaving you. And I'm like, you actually can, and you need to. He's like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. So we call my dad. At the time, you could only have one person, so we had my dad. If you don't know my dad, his exact name is Charles, but he grew up being called Charky. Just get on board with it, it's fine. And people are like, oh, that's so weird. And I'm like, yeah, well, okay. So you're weird. So Christian's like, hey, Charky, Mandy really wants me. She's insistent that I go get lunch. Can you come in and sit with her while I go to the cafeteria and get lunch? I'm like, this is so unnecessary. This is so annoying. And so my dad's like, oh yeah, well, first I got to go to the bank, and then I'll be right over. Christian's like looking at me. I can't hear the conversation. He's like, I'm like, he gets off the phone. He's like, your dad, why does he have to go to the bank before he comes here? And he's like, just upset. And I'm like, listen, he lives 5 minutes away. The bank is probably the one closest to his house. He's old, okay? I don't know. He wants to deposit cash. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Just don't worry about it. So then my dad, he gets there. He comes into the room. My dad is just a trip. He comes into the room and he's like, hey, let's go, Christian. Christian is standing there. He looks at my dad. He looks at me. He's looking at my dad and he's looking at me. What? And I'm like, Dad's like, I'm here to take you to lunch. Christian's like, just looks at me like, I can't say anything at all right now that's going to be nice. And I was like, Dad, oh my gosh, you are here to sit with me. He's going to go to lunch. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that's what we were doing. He's like, you probably wondered why I had to go to the bank. Yeah. He's like, well, I didn't know if the cafeteria took cards, so I wanted to have cash. He named all these reasons, right? I'm like, the Christian's still just standing there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you, sit down, you, go to lunch. I'm trying to have a baby here. Can I just have this moment? You people can just figure this out yourselves. But there were just layers of miscommunication. And it's like, Mandy, that's such a simple analogy. It's like, yes, it is, but that's how life like works out, right? It's like, I asked you to do this. I did. No, you missed like 5 steps, right? It's like my dad literally thought he was doing the kindest, the nicest thing that he could possibly do. He wanted to come prepared. He wanted to treat him. He wanted to be kind. Like, and Christians just like on the other side of it, like, oh, he's so frustrating. Why does he have to go to the bank? You're his daughter. Doesn't he want to be here for you? Which, I mean, is hilarious because my dad raised me. So it's like, yeah, I think he covered that. But there's going to be miscommunication. So we have to assume the best about the other person, right? In that moment, I mean, Christian did feel a little stupid. He was like, oh, Wendy, your dad is so kind. He's so generous. Like, yes, I know. And you are an idiot. But we'll talk about this later. Right now, I'm enjoying this epidural. So there's going to be miscommunications in all of our relationships. Some are going to be egregious, and some of them are going to be super tiny like that, right? But you have to communicate to work them out. And you're like, yeah, Mandy, we know. But if we go back to 1 Corinthians 13, and we are applying 1 Corinthians 13, and we are assuming the best, and we're trying to protect, and we're trying to be kind, and we're doing the always, right? We are always protecting, always trusting. Then our assumptions kind of fall away, don't they? Because even if they're not standing in this love, we are. We are. There's a verse I want to share with you. It's Proverbs 7. It says, my son, keep my words and store up my commands within you. Keep my commands and you will live. Guard my teachings as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister. And insight, you are my relative. For me, it's very important that the way I live my life reflects Scripture. It's very important that out of who I am, it's not just someone that I've self-helped or I'm creating, right? For me, it's important that who I am is grounded in God's word. And to be that and to do that, I have to apply it to my heart. And I love this verse. Store up my commands within you. That means we have to memorize it, just plain and simple. There aren't any loopholes, We have to apply it to our hearts. Keep my commands and you will live. Guard my teachings as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Like you look at your hands all day, right? So you're reading it. You can't escape it. It's there. It's all over, right? Write them on the tablet of your heart. And the next two, back in, it's not like it is now where family can be, not that it wasn't messy then, of course it was, but like there was more of a regard for family and the closeness that it had. You are my sister. You are my relative. And it's that idea that you're close. You're close to those relatives. You're close to those things. Keep his word. I need to. You need to. Keep his word close to your heart. Forgiving. Not my favorite thing to do. Maybe some of you are really good at it. I tend to be like, yes, I forgive you, but then it's like I have like, I know this is gonna totally date me, but a Rolodex. You guys know what those are? Some of you do, some of you don't. I tend to like Rolodex people. I'm like, like it's all filed away. And it's not that I'm like holding on to it, and it's not that I haven't forgiven. Like you could ask me about it. I'm just like, yeah, they did that. Like I just remember things. And for me, it's like having my heart in a posture where it's like, yes, I remember it, but I'm not going to hold on to it with bitterness. It's not to say that that person didn't wrong me. It's not to discredit or to say that person wasn't hurtful. It's like, yeah, it's in there. It's in my little Rolodex, right? It's there. I can't pretend that it didn't happen, that offense, that miscommunication, that argument, whatever it is. I can't pretend, but I can forgive it. I don't have to hold on to it. We need to be and have forgiveness so we can be in the posture of that last part, always protecting, always trusting, always believing and persevering with one another. Jesus did this a time and time again. I think I'm always just astounded when some of the stories that I read in scripture, I just sit back and I'm like, I would never do that. Like Christians always like, can you imagine if you were there right with Jesus and he was preaching and teaching and everything? Yeah, I'd be like, he is crazy. I know that's how I would have been. I am like totally glass half empty, and Christians like totally glass is totally full and overflowing. He would have been like, this is amazing. Jesus is here. And I've been like, yeah, prove it. I mean, that's just how I would have been. But when I read these stories of how, like, in John 4, it talks about how Jesus was standing there at the woman at the well, and he was saying he knew that she had 5 husbands, and she was in a relationship with someone at that point who wasn't even a husband. And the gravity that he just says to her, you are forgiven. Go and sin no more. That kind of love, that kind of forgiveness. I know. I've seen it. I have it in my Rolodex, right? I've seen all your relationships. I know it's all there. I'm not holding on to that. Go and sin no more. The power of that love in that moment for her, I forgive you. We also see it in Luke 19, where Zacchaeus, he was a tax collector, a very wealthy tax collector. He had been ripping off all the people, and Jesus comes into town, and Zacchaeus, being very short, he climbs to the top of the tree just to see Jesus. And of course, there's some crowds around Jesus, but yet he sees Zacchaeus, and he says to him, I'm going to your house. And what is Zacchaeus' response? He realizes the mercy that he just received. No one wants to be around him. No one wants to be around the woman at the well. No one wants to be around Zacchaeus, but Jesus does. His communication is one that is of love, and Jesus demonstrated that in front of everybody. Everybody, that whole crowd that was around him, heard him say that. They were like, why would you go to his house? He is horrible. And in that moment, Zacchaeus says, will restore up to 4 times the damage that I have done to these people. He realizes the gravity of what he has done, and he hasn't been loving, and he hasn't been kind, and he hasn't been protecting the people. But Jesus sees him, and Jesus is communicating love. Are we communicating that kind of love to the people around us who we see as losers? That I would have been in the crowd, and I would have been like, are you serious? He is the one person who I can't get on board with that. He's the one person. You should not be going to his house. I would have been that person standing in judgment, for sure. I know I would have been. But Jesus is just so kind. He's patient, and he is kind. There is also in John 8, and I'm going to read this part. It says, it's about another woman who is literally caught in the act of adultery. The teachers of the laws and the Pharisees brought the woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery." His response, he says, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first one to cast a stone at her." And that is the heart when we come to the forgiveness part of communication, where we want to say, right, Jesus put me in check. I am the chief of sinners. So while I want to recognize what you did and the wrong and the hurt that you caused, I'm not going to pummel you with what you've done. I want to walk alongside you with love. Then all the people there, if you're not familiar with the story, they all one by one walked away, realizing I'm not without sin. What she did was awful, but yeah, I can't do that. I can't throw a stone. Jesus was persevering with her in that moment, in that time. Christian shared a verse last week, and I'm going to read part of it, found in John 15. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If we remain in love, what does his love look like? It goes back to 1 Corinthians 13, and it says, love is patient and love is kind. If we are to remain in his love, it further says in verse 10, if we keep my commands, you will remain in love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. See, Jesus didn't say, I'm asking you to do something that I've never done before. He's not doing that. He's saying, if you keep my commands, you remain in love, just as I have done this. I've had to do this. I've had to, resist temptation. I have had to walk alongside, and I do so because I'm remaining in my Father's love. And I told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. So he doesn't give these rules to us. He gives them so that it gives us life. Just like Christian touched on last week, we want to be in him so that our love can pour out the love that God has given us, and we can remain in the Father and remain in his word. I think that sometimes I can get really human and feel like in the moment of whatever I'm experiencing, whether it's hurt from someone else or, just feeling separated or whatever the mess is that I'm dealing in, I can often feel like God doesn't know. And I can often feel like if he really knew, if he really understood, I can go there. I don't know if you guys can, but I can. And I know that there are some relationships that you're saying, Mandy, I have tried so hard. I have tried so hard. That person is just unhealthy, and it is what it is, and I can't love them anymore. I've done all of this. What do I do now? And I think it comes down to letting go. I think that that's what God did for us. He let his only son go. God gave his only son, it says in John 3:16. You're probably all familiar with that. Even if you're not in church, I'm sure you've heard this. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. There are some times in relationships where we have to let go and understand that we don't know what is going to happen down the road, but God loves that person just as much as he loves me. And so he has the plan for them. I can't work it out because that'd be unhealthy, all those things, right? But I'm going to trust that God has that person and that situation, that relationship, because God gave us the perfect demonstration where he gave his only son to show how great his love is for us. And it also says that there is just so much life in when we can believe in this statement. There's so much life in this, that in his death and in God letting go means that we got to have life in him. There's that love, that pure love, that form that we can have to Jesus, where we can go to him and we can communicate with him. God, this relationship is a mess. I can't forgive this person. There's a miscommunication. I sound like a resounding gong because there's not love in my life. All those things we can look back to and say, right, you gave me the perfect demonstration when you gave me your son. And you let him go. So Jesus, you know what it's like to let go. Show me how to let go in my relationships when I need to. Show me how, when I'm trying to fix something that's super messy, that I might need to just take my hands off of it and let you into that situation. My challenge for all of us today is that we would memorize 1 Corinthians 13. And I know it sounds really simple, and maybe some of you already have it memorized. So then my challenge to you would be to put just a verse by verse somewhere. Maybe it's on your bathroom mirror. Maybe it's on your front door before you walk in and out. Maybe it's in your car, where I tend to be the least patient. Love is patient. Love is kind. And just see what that does. See how God uses that to communicate his love, his extravagant love to those of us, to us and to those around us.